Just sit back, relax, get some tissues except for Isagi fans, and a snack to enjoy the show. Last thing is that this was scripted before chapter 263 of the BLUELOCK manga. So we are going to assume that the BLUELOCK story started in 2018, a few months after the FIFA World Cup, which means a mistake of a child was born in 2000. Phase 1. Etymology. Time for a quick etymology. His name, Micheal, given to him by his mother, means gift from God. For her, an unexpected gift for God. Wouldn't be surprised if she tries to steal some of his clout in the future. His last name, Kaiser, means emperor or a higher ruler than a king. So his name can be interpreted as God's chosen emperor, which fits the way he hallucinates himself to be before Isagi brings him to reality. Now let's start with his story. Phase 2. Parents' background. Son to a man who was a minor theatrical director and his mom being an leading role actress. When his dad couldn't pull out, Kaiser was born, and the mama took the dada's place of getting the milk and she went to do her business. As she gained a massive popularity, she basked in the spotlight, leading to the husband heartbreak, hence giving up on his talent and giving anything that made him successful and happy. Hey, like Chris Prince says, keep that talent clean. By the way, for those of you wondering how Kaiser's dad landed his mom, it's pretty simple. Kaiser's dad was a theatrical director, although being a minor one, and his mom being an actor. They low-key were in the same business, so obviously he must have directed one of her plays or been in contact with her through that whole acting business, and she used her charms to manipulate him into getting her bigger roles. And it never states that they were married or how long they were together, so she just used him until she banged him and accidentally made Kaiser, which was a responsibility she wasn't ready for. So she gave him the name and just dipped out of there. Phase 3. Kid Kaiser's upbringing. With a father that was violent, drowning himself with a cheap liquor and gambling, with Kaiser being young and powerless, now he had nowhere to go and he had to endure his father's harsh ways, especially when he says work, which means to go steal something. So he would go into town, which means he doesn't live in the city, most likely, so he has to trek there for like a good while, maybe an hour or two, just to go to the grocery store and steal some food and daily necessities. He had to do it perfectly because if he missed one item, Papa Bear would get angry. That made his thief skills very efficient. No wonder his off-the-ball movements are top tier. We see what happens when he fails, as he forgot to bring the milk, as his dad kicks the life out of him. It gets worse, as you know the kicking the poor boy ain't enough, as he has to be every Isagi Glazer and choke the life out of him, no mercy style. His dad, through all of his depression, still keeps the mother's blue rose that he received from her, most likely their first meeting or date. He received it from her, as most couples are attached to first. With all that being said, Kaiser's dad is the world's biggest simp in BLUELOCK. He would probably suck them toes like the guy from Tomorrow's Teachers does. Kaiser's dad goes on a rant about how he is trash, but calls his own son worse than a trash, a subhuman born from his sludge and the remnants of that woman's greed. He proceeds to call him worse than trash, even lower than filth, calling him a piece of doo-doo. Phase 4. Teen Kaiser, year 2012 to 2016. As Kaiser grew older, he grew smarter as well, as he was selling valuables and keeping some of the money to himself. This was his first act of rebellion. On his 12th birthday, being in December, making him a Kaiser a Sagittarius, he decided to buy something with his money, wanted to buy something that would not go away and would stay. So he was strolling an outlet and came to an Adidas section of the outlet and saw a football, and he bought it. It was a significant moment in his life, as it was his best friend saying that it's a piece of doo-doo just like me, with the eternal thought of going on a journey someday. He was trying to get out of the hood ASAP. During an armed robbery that had nothing to do with Micheal, he was named an accomplice by a guy who got caught. Friends always be snitching, bro. Kaiser was framed. His dad pretending to be a good person, saying, "How many times did I tell you not to touch people's stuff?" Even though he was the reason Kaiser is like this. His briefcase where his savings was found by the police was brought up to his dad, and he was furious about it. He grabs a bottle, seeing that the police brought it up and thinking that Kaiser hid more money in there, tries to poke it to burst it open, but Kaiser kicks the literal taste out of his mouth, knocking a tooth out of there. And then Kaiser brings the most insane feats in the BLUELOCK manga, as he kicks the ball to the police officer and does a backflip to dodge a gun shot which I have so many problems I won't address today with, and then beats up all the cops while in handcuffs. When I saw this chapter in the library, I literally thought this wasn't Blue Lock. That's how weird this scene was. This was the birth of Kaiser Impact. Kaiser gets thrown in jail for like a day, we don't know, and I believe he was rescued by Ray Dark in that time. Wait, what do I mean I believe? Oh wait, I believe that is a day. We scouting, bro. Like, bro just saw a man beat up cops and he's like, yeah, this guy's full talent. Now, phase 5. Ascension to the throne in 2016 or 2017. After making it out of prison, he is taken to the Boston Munchen training clubhouse, and we can tell that Kaiser is going to raise hell, as everyone is super friendly trying to greet him, but all Kaiser is thinking about is how these creatures were wanted to be born. Due to his poor upbringing, when his peers try to eat with him, he just decides to throw his food at one of his teammates and raise his fight, saying that it's way easier to live as a target of malice, which is a foreign to his character that leads up to present day. Kaiser knows that with the way he is acting, he won't get any passes, so he works on a weapon that will overwhelm everyone witnessing that he will prove his existence to the whole world, which is why his trademark shot name is Kaiser Impact, so it guarantees that it would make our impact to shock the world. So for his evil triumphant ways to work, he needed a femboy dog to submit to his malice. Phase 5.5. Enter Ness. We see Ness struggling in the trials game, and Kaiser observes him, calling him a good test subject with great dribbling, passing, imaginations, with abilities above criticism. But most importantly, he was isolated just like Kaiser, a perfect example to roll his heart, to make submit to his will. Though through Kaiser scoring a hat-trick, with the help of Ness, he would discover his twisted ego, using the victory to hurt people and warp them into his malice. Doing so, he felt that every time he harvested a new despair, he became a little more human. So he's basically tormenting soccer players beneath him like his dad did to him. Speaking of his dad beat him up so much that hates milk, as it's a psychological aversion for him to have right drinks in front of him. He just loves using people. Even when it comes to being late for practice, he just blames Ness. I feel like Ness is Ty Lee and Kaiser is Azula in this situation, as both Kaiser and Azula both use Ty Lee and Ness to fulfill their missions, being Kaiser to dominate the world in soccer, and Azula to conquer Basise and destroy the Avatar and become the Fire Lord. The point is that they both show signs of weakness to Ness and Ty Lee, for Azula being the beach episode where she apologizes to Ty Lee for mocking her, and even her facial expressions tell the whole story when Zuko is cooking Ty Lee in the famous Fire Nation's bar showdown. And for Kaiser, it's in the showdown shower where he and Ness are having fun. Then he tells Ness he grew up weak, as Ness is the first person to make Kaiser genuinely smile for a non-malicious reason. He tells Ness about how he countlessly lost to impossibility, so he's decided to never go back to the past. So he got himself a blue tattoo reminding him of how his mother left him to experience such a tragic past. Simply put, it's short, the symbol of impossible rebellion against God. Back to you, Lord. So I apologize for having to say some of the words that are put in the manga. He even made his hair a reminder of his past, as he dyed the ends blue, which could show that his past still slightly lingers in his golden era, being his blonde hair, and the blue being his past. Ace number 6, rivalry against Blue Lock's ace, Yoichi Isagi. After witnessing the Blue Lock 11 vs U20 match, Kaiser expressed interest in the hero that rose from the worldwide occasion, Yoichi Isagi, thinking he would be another small fry. He would then join the Neo-Egoist League, as he wanted to prove he was not inferior to Noel or exploit its system to steal a better bid to leave Bastard Munchen. I will get into more of this when we get into chapter 207 when it makes sense. The Blue Lockers are properly introduced to the PIFA New Gen 11 striker in chapter 156. Nick Treffenry earns Yoichi Isagi. Each red dick duzen Yoichi, okay? He intercepts Isagi's shot, landing with a rose garden aura around him. Then he introduces himself in German and says, "Off the knee, Blue Lock." I love how this guy is just talking with pure disrespect and none of the Blue Lockers can understand him. Kaiser then proceeds to taunt Isagi and telling him to get in the way of his life with the intention of destroying a full power Isagi, not knowing the dog he has released within. Days later, the first game against FC Barca begins, and Boston Munchen starts cooking with immediately Kaiser using his insane ball-to-ball movements and already finds the most optimal shot course and just needed Kunigami to pass it to him. But Kunigami instead shoots and misses. This would be Kaiser's first taste of what it's like to be in Blue Lock. Chapter 162, Kaiser Impact. He leaves everyone in the pitch besides the Master Strikers in shock as he lands a destructive Kaiser Impact. And Isagi states, he surpasses ideal playstyle. Even Noah states that the speed of it surpasses even him. This goal just then showed why everyone serves him in Boston Merchant, just like Barou did in the first selection. He himself in the training camp did as well. He turned a 0 into 1, being seemingly the perfect embodiment of Blue Lock. I wanted to state that fact because Kaiser and Barou are not interfering with the 1v1 duo of Noah and Lovino was because of their great perception of the event, and Isagi only fell for it because he just got on the pitch and was still in the days that he was teaming up with his hero and felt that he needed to do something to actually affect himself in the match, as right now his value was at 0. After the match, Kaiser finishes taunting Isagi, and Isagi brings up the line, "I'll give you a war. How about the Emperor who has everything stolen by me?" During the bid auction showcase, we see that Kaiser has an outstanding bid of 300 million yen, which in American dollars is $1,914,608.40. Phase number 7, the clown of the story. Before I dive into the match, I want to talk about the line I really liked as Kaiser indirectly takes a shot at his own way of living when talking to Yukimiya. The quote is, "You're too afraid to look directly at your own weakness, so you change the subject by poking at others' hopes and beliefs. Ultimately, you're fleeing from your own ideals and giving in to ugly, low-level emotions. Everyone has that demon named envy, and learning how to tame it is what makes a professional." What a hypocrite Kaiser is! When Shigri scores, Kaiser actually praises him, which is one of the only person among the egoists for in the point of the story that Kaiser actually praised genuinely. Kaiser challenges Isagi to go further by destroying Isagi's plans by being the bandits that were boring in Kaiser's eyes. We cut to the corner where Kaiser for the first time used his metavision on defense on someone other than Isagi, poor Nagi, for once. And then he begins to work with Ness to devastate everyone with an insane out-of-the-box Kaiser impact that goes through 5 to 6 defenders and scores with the predator eyes with the finish. Beautifully done. Kaiser realizes that Isagi got something from that showcase, watching him score. So when he realizes that Isagi gains metavision, he just stops his shot to keep his status as Emperor in check, then taunts him on how he always makes assists. Towards the end of the game, when Chris Prince and Noah come on, he is approached by Chris Prince to a 1v1. Kaiser, knowing that he can't win a 1v1 against Chris Prince, passes it to Ness, stating he won't rise to his childish provocations. But Chris strikes a nerve, stating, "You act superior towards those below you, and you act a differential coward you to those above you. You're surprisingly pathetic, huh?" That struck an oath to Kaiser as he made him accept the duel. He tries to dribble past him, but it fails, and then he keeps the ball away from him from Chris, who tries to tackle it from him. Kaiser performs a double touch nutmeg, trying to finally get past Chris Prince, but to no avail as he comes back with a crazy spin tackle. At the end of the game, when Isagi is finally about to score and the game winner, Kaiser swoops on to steal his moment, but is caught off guard by Isagi by passing it to Yukimiya, finally providing a play that Kaiser himself didn't see coming. And then he asks Kaiser, "How does it feel to be the clown of my story?" He even has to admit that Isagi, that this match was his, and that next match they would settle it with goals. Phase number 8. The Emperor's Last Stand. Before we get into the Uber's game, we have to talk about chapter 207, which brings Chris Prince's statement to full circle that Kaiser only crushes naive rookies, B-list veterans, fading superstars, basically crushing people beneath him. Just like when he showed everyone at training camp he was the best, he crushed these players' lives and it was his source of joy. Better be giving me Jake Paul vibes. He begins to question why Isagi continues to even try to challenge his absolute abilities. He was certain he had broken his spirit countless times, but Isagi is the Super Cena who rises above hates and never gives up. It's what Isagi lives for. Going back to phase number 6 where I explained why Kaiser even came to the NEL. Now that Isagi is big enough, On the world level, Kaiser gains the line that he is ripe and ready for the plucking. We see the game against Ubers and Kaiser is not playing around as he wants to defeat Isagi in terms of goals as fast as possible as he tries to get a goal in the beginning of the game, the first play. But Lorenzo, another new Gen 11, has entered the chat, and happy Pride Month everyone, so I'm gonna be your hubby and never let you go, Daddy Kaiser. So after the game is 1-1 apiece, Kaiser goes over to Ness saying, I can't handle my giraffe hubby. So we got a 2v1 that boy, and he gets a break from him for the relationship. Like Ness tries to do a lob pass, and Kaiser even stated in the game that Lorenzo has gotten better. And even Lorenzo states that Lil Ness has gotten better, confirming they have played against each other in the past. And with that lob going into Kaiser, Ryu stops that attack. Kaiser patiently waited for Isagi to get to a point where he was forced to give a clinical pass to Yukimiya like in the Munchen game, but Lorenzo went to stop it, finally giving Kaiser a breathing room to go on a rampage. This was Kaiser's last time as the Emperor, who reigned above everyone else in the feud, using Metavision to be the king of the feud, meditating Isagi for the last time. He scores a Kaiser impact bicycle kick in midair after avoiding Sendo's light tackle and Ryu bumping into him and even nutmegging Aiku. Ness goes over to celebrate, but Kaiser is pissed because unlike his previous goals, this one only happened because Isagi's play. And he just happened to basically bully someone and just turn in the homework. That was pretty much how Kaiser scored. Isagi and Hiyori have a super orgasmic climax chemical reaction to score the game winner against Ubers. This infuriated Kaiser as it meant he lost to Isagi, unleashing part of his self-type ego for the first time. I will get into world and self-type egos in the last phase of this Kaiser video. Phase number 9, falling to 0. We see Kaiser choking himself after the match like his daddy used to do to him. When he finished choking himself, he tells Ness he figured out a weapon that would plunge Isagi to despair. Kaiser in chapter 250 tries to go for an impossible crazy shot to put everyone in despair, but Rin stops him. We get Isagi, who explains world type and self-type egos, which self-type is bringing value to themselves and the world is secondary importance. This is perfect to explain Nagi, as Nagi would fall into this category, being that he mainly wanted to beat Isagi. He doesn't care about winning trophies, he doesn't care about the sport itself, he just cares about being selfish and scoring goals to satisfy his own needs. And this would also fail in for Rin, as he doesn't even care about being number 1 in the NEL, he just cares about beating Isagi and Sei. Kaiser would fit into the world type as he was fixated on winning trophies, protecting his self-status, and being ranked the best, and all the achievements that made him to where he is today, and even getting 320 million yen from the bid of La Real. However, his actions in the NAO of prioritizing crushing Isagi, and especially in the Ubers and PXG match, and even being stressed when his team won only because Isagi took the better of him. But if you compare him and Rin, like a fellow BLUELOCK YouTuber Susos did a video about, definitely go check him out, it's clear that Kaiser embodies a world type ego. Both their self-type egos come into play in chapter 257 when they go to try and stop Isagi, but Isagi reveals he from the hood and pulls out the Super Sino 2 Glock Valley machine gun out of his magic hat. Pray to God this bro doesn't get a hat trick. I just pray, bro. Kaiser notices that Isagi has a massive awakening, could lead to him completely putting him in a pile of trash as Corona gets subbed on for Grin, which means Kaiser has one less piece and his only piece being remaining is that dog named Ness. With no other choice, Kaiser attempts to use Kaiser Magnus effect, which in short terms experiments a rotation to his already insanely fast Kaiser impact. If Master could be the most OP weapon with pure speed and rotation, nothing could stop it unless Plot Sagi intervenes. Another video on Plot Sagi coming soon. Kaiser says the only thing is that the ball has to be on the ground for it to work. Now it's in a perfect position to aim, but Kaiser hasn't mastered it in midair, and Kaiser attempts it off balance midair thanks to the ball being in the space, but Karasu and Ayoshi Tokimitsu were putting him in an off balance situation, and he shoots it all the way into the black hole. people were calling him D1 crash outs and other nicknames, taking shots at Kaiser the best way they could. Ness gets the ball to Kaiser and he tries to stop the ball so he could do the Kaiser Impact Magnus the perfect way, the easiest way. But Isagi and Rin enter the chat to stop him. Then Isagi drops the second coldest line in the NEL. Kneel to me, you clown. We learned that because Isagi is there, Kaiser is getting PTSD of his dad, stating, because of Yoichi, my very existence is wavering, that if he doesn't surpass him, everything will disappear. Ness tries to calm him down so that they can win rationally, and Kaiser just disregards everything Ness saying, that he will disappear if he doesn't win against Isagi, that his offer will disappear, his phone will disappear, basically everything will be gone. He tries to stop Isagi one last time with the same failed result. As he realizes he is afraid of going back to not being human, he has eternal thoughts on how he kept stealing the glory through underhanded ways by stomping on the weak, just like how he used to steal in the past. But this time it's in football terms. He's doing the same thing he did in the past, but it came at what cost? And the thought of him losing what made him human scared him. He states at some point he stopped trying to steal and started to protect himself by only choosing opponents he could pretty much beat easily. And he was pretty much living in a comfort zone where he couldn't be touched. However, where he is at is in the level of the world's best. He finally realizes that if he only fights to protect his current goofy glory, he can't prove his existence further. So he has no other option but to throw away all his past success. Him being the New Gen 11, his bid from La Real, everything, and starts to scratch to figure out his ego by returning to zero. This is where I'm going to leave it out for now, as the story will continue from Kaiser being zero, and I want to do a full story on that once the NEL ends. But a boy named Box, a fellow subscriber, a very goated subscriber in the BLUELOCK community, gave me a Fury request on La Real. I can't do Luna versus Lavino, so I'm going to do one on Kaiser really quickly on if he will join La Real. And to this, my answer will be no, as he probably will get his offer rescinded and they will probably bid for Isagi or Ichi, as Isagi needs to be the player who needs to play with Sei Itoshi, as Sei Itoshi would want to play with Isagi as he saw him as the best in Japan, and this would further improve Isagi as he would finally play with the world's best midfielder to make himself the best striker, and it would be a team that would actually support Isagi or Ichi. For Kaiser, staying in Bastion means that he could make amends with Ness and everyone he just triumphantly bullied in Bastion Munchen. This would allow himself to also test himself against the world's best Noel at the current state. I will come back to Micheal Kaiser again when the NEL concludes. We won't see Kaiser for a little bit after the NEL, I believe, as we will enter like the BLUELOCK training arc for the U20 World Cup, so that's when I'll make a video on Kaiser. But until then, peace out, my fellow egoists.